This week we're building a climbing triangle for our kiddo. It's a simple project that will give your child hours of enjoyment. We have plans available for this project if you'd like to build one for yourself. For those of you that don't know what a climbing triangle is, it's a developmental toy created by a Hungarian paediatrician called Dr. Pikler. This is why it's commonly known as a Pikler triangle. The toy is a climbing structure that children aged 6 months to 5 years learn to navigate at their own pace. The climbing triangle allows children to explore their body, learn their boundaries and respond to their climbing needs. It helps develop gross motor skills, physical strength and agility by encouraging free movement and free play. We also made this slide come climbing wall, which adds additional ways to play. And as an added bonus, it also attaches to the bed that we made last week. So, let's get making. We've got some upgrades planned for the workshop, so we're currently trying to use up extra stock. We had this 3/4 inch hardwood faced plywood kicking around and thought that it would make suitable leg material for the Pikler triangle. Unfortunately, the face veneer isn't so pretty, so our plan was to paint it. Spoiler alert, it doesn't go well. Our Pikler climbing triangle is made up of 4 legs, 2 triangles and 13 dowels. First up, we cut the legs down to size on the table saw, ensuring that the grain of the wood runs along the length. This was nice and convenient as all 4 legs are the same width, so just one setting on the table saw, zip, they're done. Then using a miter saw, we cut 2 long legs and 2 short legs. Ideally, we would have used birch plywood for this project. It looks good and is very strong, but since Putin started his war, it's become near impossible to get a hold of. Fortunately, there are many good alternatives, from furniture board to planed hardwoods. It's then time to mark the location of the dowels. We'll first drill a small hole in each location, and we'll be sure to use a nice new drill bit, not this shonky wobbly thing that you're currently looking at. Now, that's much better. Using a Forstner bit, the same diameter as the dowels, we counterbored all but one of the holes, taking care that all the holes are the same depth. If they aren't the same depth, you'll find it much tougher come assembly time, and that hole that we skipped will be used later for a lock feature. As always, there's a link below to all the tools that we use and recommend for the build. Most of the dowels will be secured with a wood screw, but the top 3 dowels will use threaded inserts. So for these, we drill 1/4 inch holes, and we're careful to drill our timber with a sacrificial board behind it. This stops the wood splintering as the drill bit pushes through. Next, we add a miter to the bottom of the long legs and top and bottom of the short legs. Just set the saw to 30 degrees and take off the corner, but be careful to make sure that the orientation of the legs is correct, as we've already counterbored the holes. Then we add a round to the top of the long legs and add a radius to any pointy bits. We just looked around the workshop to find any items with a suitable curve to trace, and this filler and little pot of wax did the trick nicely. We cut out the shape with the bandsaw and then sanded to the line using a belt sander. Finally, we rounded over the edges using a 1/4 inch round over bit at the table router. This gives the legs a nice overall smooth feel. Next, we'll need a little more ply to make the triangles that will join the legs. You could painstakingly measure out the dimensions of the triangle and location of all the pivots, but there's no need for that. Our plans come with a template that you can print off for yourself on an A4 printer. Once printed, just join them together, cut them out and stick them onto your piece of timber. I'll drop a link to the plans below, or you could head over to makers-manual.com for more inspiration. It's that easy. First up, we cut the 2 straight sides with the miter saw, then pop the saw to the 30-degree setting and chop to the line. Then use a bandsaw or jigsaw to tackle the curves. And finally sand until all the curves are smooth. The trick to using a power sander like this is to always keep the workpiece moving and never push too hard. It's now time for the template to shine. Drill 1/4 inch holes where the template indicates, and you should find that they match up perfectly with the leg holes. To keep things simple, we doubled up on the triangles and drilled them both at the same time. After we peeled off the template, we had 2 sets of perfect triangles. Then we rounded off the edges on the table router to match the style of the legs. For now, we'll set the triangles and legs to the side while we begin working on the dowels. We'd recommend beech dowels. They're strong, look good and take finish well. If you can, source dowels with the grain running the entire length. This is called long grain and they will be stronger than anything else. First up, cut the dowels to length and make sure they're all equal. For the diameter of dowel, there are two obvious options, 1 inch and 1 1/4 inches. Our thinking is 1 inch is more suitable for a child's smaller hands, and while they're unlikely to break under an adult's weight, they will bend. Given the triangle is aimed at younger children, we opted for the 1 inch dowel, but in hindsight, the bend is a little disconcerting, and if we were to make this again, we'd opt for the 1 1/4 inch dowel. We then marked up the centre of each dowel and drilled a pilot hole for the wood screw. 3 of the dowels will also need drilled out with larger holes to accommodate a threaded insert. Here we're measuring the diameter of the insert inside the threads, so it looks like a 9mm hole will be ideal. When drilling the hole, better to drill deeper rather than too shallow. This will allow you to use longer bolts when assembling rather than the insert being proud. To install the threaded inserts, we used the trick of threading 2 knots onto a bolt and tightening them against each other to lock them off. Then screw the insert into the screw and use this to thread the insert into the dowel. We also used a little CA glue to permanently lock it into position. We just needed to clean up the hole. A quick glide of the chisel does the job nicely. We repeated this process for all 3 dowels. Next up, we need to mark the location for a hole which will become the safety lock. This will lock off the triangle with a star knob when the triangle is in its open position, making it impossible to accidentally fold. To do this, we partially assembled one side of the Pikler triangle. We popped the bolts through the triangle and lined them up with the legs, gently patting into position. Here is also an opportunity to see how the mechanism will fold for storage. With the legs in the open position, we took a drill bit, placed it through the extra hole in the legs and used it to mark the correct location on the triangle beneath. When disassembled, you'll see where we need to drill for another threaded insert. Be careful to drill the correct depth without going all the way through. A collet on the drill bit is really handy here to control the depth, otherwise a bit of tape wrapped around at the correct height will also work really nicely. We then screwed in the insert as before. Don't worry if the ply lifts a little as it did here, that can be easily tidied up when sanding. Now for everybody's favourite time. It's time to sand. You'll want to clean up all the surfaces and edges until they're smooth and free from any pencil marks. Next up will be painting the dowels. I'm sure you can imagine how difficult it would be to paint them if they were all rolling around the bench. So instead we drilled 13 holes in this scrap board and secured a dowel through each. This trick will make painting so much easier. As a colour scheme, we really liked the idea of painting them the colours of the rainbow, but whatever colours you choose, be sure that your paint is child safe and hard wearing. Also remember 3 of your dowels have threaded inserts and those 3 will need to be at the top of the triangle. For us that means they're the blue-violet end of the colour spectrum. We used 2 coats of child safe acrylic paints in these striking colours. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. We chose to paint the legs because we didn't like the look of the hardwood veneer on this plywood. So we found this tin of white gloss paint in the back of the cupboard, and what could possibly go wrong? Painting turned out to be a terrible idea and we really should have known better. The porous edges of the plywood coupled with a tin of paint that was long past its use-by date, not a winning combination. Also, regardless of what the tin says, paint takes a long time to fully dry, like sometimes months. That means the finish will damage much more easily in those first few weeks, and although our paint had several days to dry in a warm workshop and was totally dry to the touch, it was still soft, so when we assembled the triangle and folded and unfolded a few times, it marked up terribly. As much as it pained us to do so at this late stage, we couldn't live with this awful finish, so we remade it from pine furniture board. Now this is still plenty strong and we'll give it a coat of varnish to finish. If you do make this climbing triangle for yourself, we'd strongly recommend avoiding paint on the legs. Although we could have got a better finish with the new paint, we would still need to wait weeks for the paint to cure enough to survive the folding action. The natural pine looks so much better, so lessons learnt. Before assembling the climbing triangle, we took the dowels and gently tapered the ends. This will make inserting them into the legs much easier. Assembly can be tricky. In our first attempts, we found the dowels were falling down faster than we could put them in place. We found the best approach was to insert a dowel, then put a screw in lightly to hold it in place. And I say lightly because too much force will simply strip the thread. Then it's a case of tapping the dowel home and tightening the screw. You might need to repeat this a few times to get the dowel fully seated. Also, don't forget to get your dowels in the correct order if you're building a rainbow. Richard of York gave battle in vain. The last dowels in the assembly will have threaded inserts. For these, don't use any fixings for now. The rest of the assembly will hold everything together until we're ready. To attach the second leg, it's a similar process. Lie the assembly down, put a dowel in the hole and use a screw to hold it in position while you get the other dowels into position. Then tap, screw, until everything is seated. The last step is to assemble the triangles, making sure to put the triangle with the threaded insert on the same side as the leg with the corresponding hole. Once assembled, we applied a little wax to the sliding surfaces. This will help prevent rub marks and keep that folding action nice and smooth. We then brought over the short legs and lined them up with the top hole of the triangle, again securing with a bolt. A wee note on the legs, be sure to check their orientation before you secure them together. You want this nice inward arrow at the feet. That way, when splayed out, the flat surface will be in contact with the ground. So here we have it, the Pikler climbing triangle. Now, to make a slide. This slide is a quick project that makes a great accessory to the Pikler climbing triangle and the kids' bed. We made the slide from the same 18mm pine furniture board and cut it to size on the table saw. Followed this by cutting these lengths that we're calling retaining strips, and lengths that will become the climbing holds for the other side of the slide. We then jumped over to the miter saw to cut everything to size. To radius the corners of the slide, we used a template. Then you can use a jigsaw to remove most of the material and hand sand down to the line to get that nice curve back. Alternatively, to make it better still, we used this router radius template secured with double-sided tape to the underside of the slide, and using a router and flush trim bit, we get the final radius in one simple step. Beautiful! To make the slide safe, round over all the edges with a 1/4 inch roundover bit. That includes all the edges of the slide and the top edge of the retaining strip. Remember, you can always use sandpaper to just break the edges, but I'd say a roundover does make it nicer for little hands. One of the downsides to using pine are all the knots. Mostly this isn't a problem, but there is the possibility that you might find a few loose ones like this one. It's quickly fixed, just remove any loose bits and fill the void with wood filler. There's no need to be tidy, a 2-part wood filler is the best option here as it's stronger than the air drying stuff and it hardens much quicker. Then sand down until flush and add the roundover again with the router. To attach the retaining strips, we drilled 2 holes at either end of each strip, making sure that they were offset from one another so that when we screw them down, the screws don't clash. We lined them up to the top end of the slide, secured with glue, clamped them into position and screwed them in using wood screws. We then repeated this same process for the other side. To make the climbing handholds, we started by drawing out the shape that we wanted. Once again, we looked around the workshop to find the appropriate curve that we were trying to achieve. We then cut it out at the bandsaw and sanded the edges smooth. You can make all of the handholds this way, but we're going to use this first one as a template to make the other 5. So using this template, we could trace the shape onto all the other handholds and quickly run them through the bandsaw to remove the majority of timber. We then screwed our template down so that it couldn't move, and using a good quality double-sided tape, we attached another handhold on top. And then using a router with a 1/4 inch spiral flush trim compression bit, that was a mouthful, we copied the shape from our template and repeated this for all of the handholds. And then to make the handholds safe and nice to touch for the little hands, we added a round over to the top and bottom edge before giving them a final sand. To attach the handholds to the slide, we marked up the location for each one, equispaced along the length of the slide, and secured them with glue and wood screws. So that the slide matched the climbing triangle, we masked off each handhold and painted them the same colours. To finish the slide, we applied 3 coats of varnish on both sides and all of the edges, using an outdoor varnish, and then sanded between coats to get this lovely glossy smooth finish. Perfect for sliding out of bed in the mornings. There you have it! This fun Pikler climbing triangle and slide, ready for hours of enjoyment and to help your child develop their gross motor skills. If you enjoyed this video and learnt something new, do give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. And if you haven't already, do check out the other 2 videos in this series. There should be links for them on your screen just now. Until next time, cheerio!